Can the weather affect your pain? Let's find out. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Ask Dr. Pickel show. All right, so today we want to find out, can barometric pressure, can the weather affect your pain? And you'll hear people, they'll say, hey, I feel like there's a front moving in. I can feel it. I can feel that storm moving in soon. And are they feeling this? And they'll say, hey, it's my knee. My knee starts to ache whenever there's bad weather, or my elbow, or some other joint. They'll really notice that it increases their pain level or pressure level. And it's like, wait a second, is that some real thing, or is this like a wives' tale or something here? So, in fact, let's turn to page 1 here. All right. So, barometric pressure. So, what is this barometric pressure? So, basically, barometric pressure is the measurement of the pressure in the atmosphere. This is the atmosphere pushing in on us, and it happens on a daily basis, happens all the time. This pressure is always pushing in on our body kind of equally throughout the body. And we need that. We need that pressure. And actually, within our body, it's kind of pushing out the opposite direction. But this pressure change has effects on us, not only on us, but also on the weather, things in the outer world too, there, meaning that if we have a low pressure zone over our state or over our city, what happens? Yeah, bad weather can move in, like a thunderstorm or a snowstorm or something like that. But when we have high pressure, that kind of pushes everything out of the way, and we get good weather. So that's how you can kind of look at it that way. Now the thing is when these storms move in, they're coming into these low pressure zones. And what happens to the body with low pressure? Well, here's where we really get into it, because low pressure, now we're getting less pressure pushing against our body. So if we have a weak area in our system, let's say I've got arthritis in my knee, or some bad cartilage in my knee, or I have a bulging disc in my lower back, or some other joint problem or problem within my body there that's maybe inflamed a lot. These weaker areas, you're going to feel them more when the pressure changes, especially if the pressure, if we get low pressure, basically the tendons, the muscles, the ligaments, the joint capsules that are full of fluid, they start to expand because the pressure is not pushing in, holding them tight. They start to expand outward. And what if that swollen cartilage starts to push a little too far, or that joint capsule starts to get more expansive than it should be between the joints? This can start to irritate nerve endings. And that's kind of what I put here, because of course all pain is transferred through nerves. So if you irritate those nerve endings, yeah, you're going to feel pain, or you're going to feel pressure, or you're going to feel some other sensation that maybe isn't very comfortable. And so this is basically what occurs. Now, another thing that can occur is if, let's say, colder weather moves in, we've got low pressure, colder weather moves in, or we're in a low pressure and we're not very mobile. Let's say we've laid in bed all day, or we sat in a chair all day. Well, the fluid that's between all of our joints, between every joint in our body, there's a capsule full of fluid. Bones never touch. If they touch, they fuse together. There's this capsule full of fluid in there. But what happens when you don't move that fluid around in an arthritic joint, or in a maybe more damaged capsule? Then that fluid becomes less viscous. Then it's more, let's say it's like this. Instead of liquidy fluid that really keeps things moving, it starts to turn more into a jello-like substance. Now I got stiff joints, I got achy joints, just to open my fingers hurts. Yeah, now once you start moving them around, or once you run some hot water on them, that fluid in the between those joint capsules, between the joints, then starts to turn back from that gelatinous state, that jello state, into more of a fluid state. And then it's like, hey, I can move them again. It just I had to kind of move around and get going. So this viscosity can change too. And actually there was a study to put on top of this, that they did in Tufts University. And they said, hey, does this really happen? Does barometric pressure affect arthritis pain? And, the results basically show that, yeah, for every 10 degree that the temperature drops, they were able to document a corresponding incremental increase in arthritis pain. So, yeah, as it gets colder, your arthritis pain can increase. So, this might send people to live more in warmer areas, drier areas, areas where there's higher pressure zones, especially if you have more arthritis. You might feel comfortable living in those areas rather than living in areas that have rapid weather changes and all kinds of crazy weather. And also, there's even some other things that I didn't write on here where they've done some studies with barometric pressure, how these low pressures can affect depression, how these low pressures can cause overall pain changes, cause others. Actually, the research out there is pretty interesting on how barometric pressure affects us and can affect us on a regular basis. So, having that high pressure always kind of a good thing, not only physically and if you have arthritis, but also, yeah, maybe in the higher pressure areas, you got the sun shining and the not a lot of clouds and it's beautiful day. Yeah, that makes you feel better mentally too. And then I would say one other thing is if you live in a higher altitude, let's say you live in a mountain in Colorado, yeah, you're more susceptible. You have lower pressure up there at those higher altitudes, so you're more susceptible to this type of an issue. Whereas if you live in lower altitudes, closer to sea level, yeah, less of these issues, less of the arthritis pains potentially there. So, all right. Well, hopefully everybody enjoyed today regarding weather and arthritic pain and some other interesting information. All right. Well, God bless. I will see you next time and have a wonderful day.